this video. I am very bad at German even though they teach me this at school. Let's check it's very bad. Let's check the nukes very bad. Let's check the nukes. Let's check the nukes. These nukes get destroyed because of course they get destroyed because all of the so the Japanese and Chinese nuclear arsenals are gone. Just straight up disappeared. Somewhere in the waste, somewhere in the universe. As it has doors. Na 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 booty color art. And I think last episode of the American Civil War. But what could really start the American Civil War than a Cuban Civil War? You see, the U.S. with its Monroe Doctrine was trying to start a hegemony in the Americas. Cause they tried. The Cuban revolutionaries are represented by blue, and the Cuban revolutionaries are basically Fidel Castro. So Castro has taken over Cuba. But even with the massive U.S. involvement, the U.S. is humiliated by the civil rights movement, causes massive instability in the South as the 1960s start. And overall, these tensions boil up. And the United States collapses in civil. The current leading party is the Republican Party under Richard Nixon. Would fight massive amounts of Protestants, specifically Puritans in the upper areas. Chicago, which basically becomes a black fest, is taken over by a bunch of civil rights people who and the straight up people support civil rights. The hippies, being pacifist, have some loyalties to some organizations, and those organizations break up. The Texans break up because they just feel that America's too bad nowadays. Same with Louisiana, mainly due to the Creole French thing. The farmers really need the subsidies. And Michigan, while the Michigan State Council just decides to rebel because of them being Democrats. While civil rights extremists, while some black extremist groups are able to form some level of organization here, the South is mostly led by the KKK. While the black organizations have been started with uncritical South led by the KKK, and eventually, but there are some anti-KKK groups that are able to get territories. The Mormons just decide to break up because they want to. And of course, the Sind, and the northern Montana organized, just led by a bunch of forces who just got bored, who want no. The rest of the areas remain pro-government. Well, the central faction are just a bunch of farmers who decide to bear a rebel. The U.S. government, with its U.S. military, starts pushing out all of the major factions, especially the Democratic ones. But they struggle in California and against the KKK. The black communists get quickly destroyed, with them only being left in Miami, as the KKK and other southern white supremacist organizations which have united to form the alliance of pure Americans. And of course, but the KKK does get easily destroyed. What's the problem is the missing here, because Texas won't rejoin the farmers coalition does easily join. Texas want to join the Mormons, same with them, but the Mormons do get quickly puppeted in return for Mormon rights to do whatever they want. So Mormons could really get anything done. The gangs quickly get put down here because of the full U.S. military, not because just the police. Just the police weren't able to do anything as it shows, and the Nixon's government struggles to do anything now. Yeah, 370. So the United States government gets reunited by the United States government. There's no government shift, but it's a brutal civil war that causes the United States government to be different. After this, the United States should become more nationalistic now and way more paranoid. Joins the Reichspakt. Well, the Romans actually start developing the nuclear industry, while Poland basically stalls during this period as it couldn't really use Germany as a puppet state anymore. The Roman nuclear the the Byzantine nuclear nukes get exploded. Meanwhile, there are some Chinese wars, specifically here. The clique over here is invading the cliques. This clique over here, the Republic of this land versus this land. This clique conquers the other clique. Para bit pato kutu, tagatita delicado, liga laga diga liga diga leke ke 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 Enrique, leka 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 la 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 la. Somewhere in the universe, someone's got it worse. Na 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 na. Summer Gunner is a goon. Trump is beating to get tomatoes. No, eventually, a treaty signed to stop nuclear enhancement. Well, actually, the Soviets just do it anyway. Soviets didn't join the treaty, so they can. So the Soviets and the Americans also leave. The bad guys because they don't. So Americans are now pretty fascistic, but they still do uphold Civil Rights Act. They developed 10,000 nukes, and the Soviets developed 29,000 nukes over the start of the 1970s, keeping these operations a secret. The United States slowly turns into a police state, but it's somewhat equal. Okay, but like there's some racist laws, but most of the Jim Crow laws have been eliminated. So now let's actually go to one very important area for both countries, Iranistan. Okay, it's actually just Iran. I made a joke about Afghanistan, but what the fuck? So I guess British people. Now the war starts between the Iranian Revolution and the Iranian Empire. The Iranian Revolution is mainly aided by the communists, so the communists joined the war. I'm too lazy to do anything. The Iranian Empire strikes back, which is aided by both sides actually, or more by the Entente, but still aided by both sides. Because nobody wants a communist Iran. But we actually don't know if it's communist or basically just remaining. Communist or remain? That's the question. What will go be tonight? That's the question. Ain't no fortunate son. Silver spoony hand, I ain't no fortunate son. The Iranian revolutionaries are shockingly able to do very good, as the Iranian Empire just falls into guerrilla warfare. The Shah is well expressed for Azadistan, which remains loyal to the Shah. Somewhere in the universe, somewhere it was. And that's basically the guerrilla wars here with Isfahan. Now the Iranian Empire is able to recapture Isfahan and quickly moves into Tehran, and they quickly slave the border of these countries. But the Soviet army is just too big, and the Iranian revolutionaries are getting really bored of the oligarchy, but the central oil fields get quickly controlled. And yeah, that's what I lived